What is up, my friends? Your weekend has started. It is Friday night's late night agenda, and as always, you are very welcome along. It feels as if Bayern have lost the plot altogether, or somebody's telling porkies, but we'll try to figure out exactly what has gone on as Florian Plettenberg claims that Liverpool's Rio Ngamoha has held direct talks with Vincent Company and that the move collapsed yesterday. We'll try to figure out what on earth is going on there and fill in the blanks, of course, as much as we can. We'll also be discussing other transfer targets for the Reds. We'll talk about a few other bits and pieces, but I'm sure this is going to be our main story this evening. And nearly fell off my chair, to be honest, when I seen it earlier on, because it just seems illogical for so many reasons. And one of the reasons I was a little bit delayed in starting was right up until the last second I was messaging, trying to find out from people if they had anything on this or what they think about it. So we'll try and go through it all this evening. But for the first poll question of the night, we thought we'd ask you guys, do you believe, Florian Plettenberg, that conversations took place directly between Vincent Company and Rio? Because first and foremost, that is literally tapping up. I mean, if a manager speaking to a player of another club about a move, that's tapping up. And Plettenberg has just put that out into the world as if it's nothing. So we're going to try and figure out what on earth has gone on. I'm sure that you guys will have plenty of questions around it as well. I'll do my best to answer it with as little as I know about it. But let's get stuck into it. Right. Let's get cracking with how this story sort of all came about, and then we'll go from there. So the story goes that apparently once Anthony Gordon decided that he was going to move to Barcelona and not to Bayern Munich, this set in place a domino of events that led to them turning their attention to Rio. Now, this is where we first started to see the story come out today. Firstly, it was Florian Plettenberg making the claims, but as the day went on, it was also David Ornstein that added a little bit to this. And David Ornstein didn't quite go as brashly as Florian Plettenberg did, but he did say Bayern Munich are exploring a surprise move to sign Liverpool winger Rio Ngamoha. The Anfield club insists Rio is not for sale and they plan to enhance their options in this area rather than diminish them. Now, David Ornstein also said that Rio is aware of Bayern's strong interest and intentions driven by head coach Vincent Company, and the board are yet to contact Liverpool. So this could be a problem for Bayern Munich if indeed what Florian Plettenberg said is correct, because I'll take you through exactly what Plettenberg had to say in a moment. But he made a bit of an outlandish claim to say Bayern Munich had reached a full verbal agreement with Rio and his camp on the 26th of May. Negotiations have been taking place for weeks, he said. However, the deal fell through yesterday, and then he said, for the time being. It remains to be seen whether club-to-club agreements can be reached. And then he goes on to talk about Liverpool, basically, well, he didn't go on to say that, excuse me, I'll move on to exactly what he said now. Dougie Critchley, by the way, on this said, there is some outlandish business being attempted today. Firstly, Real Madrid put in a bid, or are going to put in a bid of €150 million for Michael Elise. And secondly, Bayern are interested in signing Rio Ngamoha, one of the few bright sparks from Liverpool's last season, that desperately need to sign rather than sell talent. But the big claim then came later on in the day. We'll take you through what Romano said as well. He said Rio Ngamoha is considered untouchable by Liverpool and a crucial part of their project. Rio, speaking himself previously, has been on camera as saying, I think Liverpool for me is the best club in the world. On top of that, we had Sammy Mockbelt of the BBC who said, confirmed, Bayern made inquiries about a potential move for Rio Ngamoha, but sources have indicated that no face-to-face discussions have taken place. No agreement over personal terms has been struck between Bayern and the player. Sources close to Liverpool insist that Rio is not available and is viewed as an important member of the first team. But the really, I guess, contentious post came a bit later, and Plettenberg said this: the deal between FC Bayern and Rio already collapsed yesterday despite a verbal agreement, because it was clear behind the scenes that Liverpool would not sell the player. However, there were phone calls, meetings and direct talks between Vincent Company and NGUMOHA. Also reported by David Ornstein, NGUMOHA became Bayern's primary target once the Anthony Gordon deal began to collapse. Bayern are now focused on two other transfers, but look, that's a big claim to make. If he said that Rio spoke directly with Vincent Kompany, then Liverpool would absolutely have a case there. Now, from what we can gather, there's no truth to this. And I would challenge Florian Pettenberg to actually show some documented proof on this, because it is a rather big claim, and one that I'm sure Liverpool aren't going to just sit back and allow to be put out there by a journalist. You know, it's one thing saying Bayern are interested in a player. That's no problem. You know, that happens all the time. But to claim that a deal collapsed yesterday after a deal agreed verbally with the player, that's a big claim to make. And as well as saying that he spoke directly to Vincent Kompany, people that I've spoken with today have a very strong belief system on this, and they aren't having it, quite frankly. So let's wait and see. It's absolutely tapping up at minimum, but I would say, for me, I call bullshit, quite frankly. And I would love to see any proof that these phone calls took place, because, you know, that's a big thing for Liverpool and for Rio, because this has the potential, if Liverpool fans picked it up and thought, oh, so Rio wants out, of turning nasty, and that's unfair on the young man. So we need to know exactly what the fuck is going on here, because something smells a little bit fishy. On top of this, Alex Crook had said that Liverpool sources have been taken aback by the Bayern Rio story. No permission granted to speak to the player and no plans to sell. And that's exactly what I've been met with everybody that I've messaged over this today. People just shocked, and people not having anything on it. So the difference between what Ornstein said and what Plettenberg said is huge, because David Ornstein's just talking about interest. That's no problem, like we've said. But Plettenberg has either walked himself, Sky, or Bayern Munich into trouble here with that statement. And to me, it just feels like, again, Bayern are in a really frustrating place with some of the pursuits of players that they've had, and they've lost out targets left, right, and centre. And it feels a bit like shithousery to me. But I don't know what you guys think. Do let me know in the comments. Right, where are we at? Where are we at? Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out which days are which here on the comments. One sec. This one, Jaden said they can buy him on FIFA. Bayern want every forward. 150 million bid for Elise from Real Madrid is outrageous. I reckon Bayern went for Rio because of that. Could be wrong. Look, Rio's contracted. Rio signed a long-term contract with Liverpool in 2025 when he signed his first professional contract. So he signed to Liverpool. And the idea of Vincent Kompany speaking directly with a Liverpool player, it stinks. It really does stink. Now remember, we got held over the coals for the whole Virgil van Dijk tapping up thing with Southampton. So it'll be interesting to see what Liverpool do with this, because if I said that, I would be fully expecting Liverpool to come after me and ask me how I got this information and to show that this meeting took place. So I don't think Plettenberg can just drop this out there into the world and then act like nothing has happened. It is a very big claim to make, in my humble opinion. What's tapping up? Is that basically tampering? Yes, it's basically getting in a player's ear without going through the right channels. You know, these things, we can't be naive and think that agents aren't always talking. But he didn't say that. He said talks took place directly between Rio and Kompany. Now, if it was Rio's agent, that's fair enough. It's not great, but like, we can't be naive enough to think that that doesn't happen with players. Agents are always speaking. But a direct conversation with a manager of another club and one of our players, that's that is straight into the tapping up category, if you ask me. Leave Rio, damn it. Happy Friday, WFM. I don't look, Liz, he's going nowhere. You don't need to worry about that. Liverpool won't even entertain an offer for Rio. As David Ornstein and many others have said, you know, we're looking to add in that area of the pitch, not take away from it. So it's absolutely nonsensical. And it feels to me like sour grapes from Bayern because they keep missing out. And, you know, Bayern have been taking some cheap shots against Liverpool in the media since they lost out on Florian Wirtz, basically. And they hasn't really died down since then. And this to me just feels like, again, another attempt at that. But what I do find interesting in all of this is the timing of it. So if the deal broke down yesterday, what else happened yesterday? What else happened? A new coach came in and Slot was gone. So I can't help but wonder if there is any truth to this. Was it because of the whole Slot factor? Was Slot maybe someone that Rio didn't want to play for? And again, I don't know, but I'm just like you trying to piece all this together and think, what on earth? How does this make any sense? Um, because we know Rio was also away with Thomas Tuchel training with the England team. I know he's not in the World Cup squad, but he's over there for some pre-tournament training with them. Um, so yeah, this all feels unfortunate. And my only concern when I seen this, and I mean this sincerely, my only concern was that I hope people didn't start having a go at Rio. Because Rio, in my opinion, has done nothing wrong. Unless this is proven as having taken place, then it is a different conversation. But to this point, Rio's done nothing wrong I'm aware of, and I certainly don't want the young lad coming in for any grief over it. I think if anybody's getting grief here, it has to be Plettenberg, because he's the one that's made this claim. So it's time to shut up or put up. Right, Maxi on X, Maxi Angelo said, Ornstein, who broke the story, reports that Rio is aware of interest and no club-to-club contacts have taken place. Yet NGUMOHA has supposedly had a verbal agreement after weeks of negotiating. Yeah, look, something feels wrong about this, and it isn't for me on our side. I don't think Liverpool or Rio have done anything here. It just feels, I don't know, it's got people talking tonight, and maybe that was the aim here. But Plettenberg's taken it, in my opinion, too far now with what he said, because it isn't just interest anymore. It's gone into tapping up at this point for me. And I got to be honest, I'm really angry about it. I'm really angry about it because it is blatant. And not only blatant, but then you've got journalists from Sky Germany. Like, this isn't some fan channel or something. This is Sky Germany's correspondent saying this publicly. Craig, even if it was true, would you blame him the way he was treated last season? Look, I know some people that know Rio's family. Now, I don't know Rio's family, and I've never had any conversations with any of them. But I do know some people that know his family, and they are big Liverpool people. And they love that Rio's at Liverpool Football Club. And Rio could have had his choice of clubs all around the world. But he wanted to come to Liverpool. And I don't think we've had to be concerned about in that regard. I really don't. I don't think Rio wanted to move. But like I said, coincidentally, Plettenberg saying that it broke down yesterday. Well, yesterday was the day that Liverpool unveiled Andoni Iraola as our new head coach. Feels like Bayern paid a journo to stir the pot. Immature BS by Bayern. It's gone beyond stirring the pot now. Honestly, for me, he's taken it too far with that last post to say direct contacts, because I'm actually surprised he's been so naive there, Plettenberg, because a journalist should know better. Even if he thinks they have taken place, he's landed himself and Bayern in a rather precarious position. So I'm intrigued to see whether Plettenberg walks this back a little bit or whether he doubles down on it. If Rio really had talks with company, I could imagine it would be because Liverpool told the line of Slot staying for so long, things collapsed because of the appointment of Iraola, a move Rio approved. Well, to be fair, it doesn't really matter whether Slot was here or not. He's contracted to Liverpool Football Club. If he wants to move away, his agent should go to Liverpool and say that. And say that there is interest. And his agent can talk to anybody. But to say the player, that's the part that really stands out here. If it was his agent, no problem. That shit happens all the time. I'm sure we're doing it to players now. But a direct person-to-person conversation between the coach of another team and a player, that's tapping up. There's no other word for it. Unless he has agreement or permission from Liverpool to speak to Rio, it's straightforward. Busy Media said, if Slot were still here, it might be a little concerned. I wouldn't be concerned even if Slot was here, because Rio's contracted to Liverpool. It's that simple. And Rio loves the club. Like, I'm not in any way trying to shape up this to be like Rio's done nothing wrong. Absolutely not. I'm just annoyed by Plettenberg, because I'm fucking sick of him. Like, his nickname, I'm not going to say out loud, but you know what it is. And it's, again, probably only been strengthened by this nonsense that he's come out with. So, yeah, and the way he dragged Ornstein in as well to try and say, like, basically Ornstein's backing up what he said. What David Ornstein said is extremely different from what Plettenberg said, because, you know, any club can have an interest in a player. That's no problem. And that's basically what Ornstein said. You know, and I'm sure that's absolutely true. But there's a big difference between saying that and saying that he spoke with the manager, which is what Plettenberg is claiming. Is the Amonde likely to join us? So I don't want to give you false hope, but I can say I've heard some encouraging things around the situation with Diamande, but I'd be an absolute liar to tell you that it's close, is agreement. I've heard plenty of positive things about the pitch that Liverpool are putting forward. Because as we said multiple times, we can show him a pathway right now into the Liverpool first team. And I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch Bence's first video on the channel earlier on. He was talking about Diamande. And one of the things that stood out to me in Bence's video was how meticulously planned Diamande's career has been to this point. So he could have had bigger moves, but he wanted to continue to play and develop, and that has been a pivotal part of his progression so far. You know, when he went from over in Ivory Coast, over to the States, from the States then over to Leganes to RB Leipzig, all of this has been with a view to him continuing to play and continuing his development. And Liverpool right now can say they have an open spot. You know, they have an open spot. They have a relatively young team. They have a new exciting coach. And we can give him that pathway. Could you really say that if you're Paris Saint-Germain at the minute with Desiree Doué there, at the moment with Bradley Barcola there, of course, Kavisha Kvaratskhelia as well. So I'm certainly optimistic in that regard, but it's the price tag that would give me the most concern around the idea of Diamande. You know, it's seemingly getting higher and higher as the days go by. And we also can't rule out the possibility of him staying one more season with Leipzig, but Liverpool are working diligently on this one, and I certainly wouldn't rule us out of it. I wouldn't say that we're, you know, second favourites behind X or Y. I think we're right in the mix, but which way it goes, we'll have to wait and see. David, how are we, sir? David said, evening all, Rio isn't going anywhere. Absolutely, you're right, David. He isn't going anywhere. Not happening. Isn't he a Liverpool fanboy since he was young? Yes. I know people, again, tried to say he was a United fan or and he's a Liverpool fan. You can find the images of him as a kid in the Liverpool shirt. And again, his own words in a post-match press conference, he said, I think Liverpool for me is the best club in the world. So I really don't think we have anything to worry about. I'm not worried. I'm just annoyed, quite frankly, as a fan. Not at Rio. I'm annoyed at Plettenberg. Lee said, being paid out on bets for Iriola to be the next manager after you putting your reputation on the line. Thanks, Craig. Second time in a row you've been bang on before everybody else following the Isak transfer prediction in the summer. Thank you, Lee, and well done you. Well done you. Yeah, I'm delighted for you, mate. It's always a good day to hear somebody made a few quid off something. And you know what the funny thing is? One of my own uncles messaged me when Slot was sacked, and he said to me, did you know about this, son? Because he always calls me son. And he said, do you know about this, son? I said, yeah, I said it on the 16th of May on my channel. And he's like, why didn't you put a bet on and make a few quid off it? And more importantly, why didn't you tell me? And I could have made a few quid off it. And the reason is because I wouldn't ask anybody to put money on or like leverage money against these things, because if it went tits up, I'd feel terrible about it. So I'm glad you made a few quid though, Lee. That really is good to hear, my man, and thank you. Appreciate all your kind words as well. And that's what I keep saying about regular viewers of the channel, Lee. People will know that the things that we have said, the only thing that's been wrong was Bellingham. And I can't say on camera why that was, but anybody who's come to an Anfield Agenda live show or has met me, I've talked about this multiple times. I I just can't say it on camera because I don't want to land myself in some potential legal hot water. But apart from that, pretty much everything else we've said has been very well sourced, credible information. And, when I hear people mock a little bit and go, oh, yeah, sources, bro, it just does make me smile because, you can't be in this industry for nearly 8 to 10 years and not meet people along the way and not be introduced to people and not, start to bit by bit be able to at least bounce ideas around, ask people what they're hearing, share information. So, yeah, look, honestly, this last few days has just been great, Lee. It's been so lovely. I was chatting with Brian earlier on, LFC USA, and we were messaging back and forth, and I was just saying to him what a different experience it's been over the last few days on the channel because everyone's just excited and optimistic and looking forward to the new season, and it's made everything so much better for me on a personal level because I see happy people, excited people in the chat, and that makes me happy because my mood's dictated by Liverpool, and when you guys and we're all in a good place, I'm usually in a good place as well. And nobody can reveal their sources, otherwise many bridges will be burned. Exactly that. But what I can never control in any of these things is the time frame, because these things can move and change. And I have to say, I was actually surprised at how quickly that whole slot thing did come about, and how from within a few days it just went from he's staying to boom, gone like that, just like we said. But most importantly in all of this shit, it's the right decision. It was just the right decision. Oh, what's this? Somebody saying that Fabrizio said Gakpo could leave. Don't be saying that to me. Don't be saying that to me. How would we feel about that this summer, folks? Because there was interest from Spurs, apparently, in Cody Gakpo. Let me read it out to you because we touched on this in the earlier video, but there has been believed to be some interest. So, according to the soccer news in the Netherlands, Roberto De Zerbi is hoping to convince Cody Gakpo to make the move out of Liverpool this summer. Spurs are currently working behind the scenes on a possible deal, drawing up a plan to convince the forward and Liverpool in the summer window. This would be an interesting one because I think I know what most fans would say, but I've no idea what the club's thought process is going to be here. One thing I will say to you is, when I spoke to somebody a few weeks ago and I highlighted my confusion at the wages that Gakpo's getting, the answer I was given was to protect the value. That was the answer I was getting. Now, they never said a deal could be coming down the line. They never said a sale could be coming, but they said that's it. That's why, was to protect his contract value and to protect his sale value. Now, they didn't say, Craig, expect a sale this summer or anything. They didn't. But that was the answer I got. Julian said, Dutch person here, soccer news is an absolutely terrible source. I wouldn't take it seriously. Oh, no. We're aware of that, mate. Don't worry. We've reached out to some people in the Netherlands who've pretty much echoed what you've said. I'm just trying to figure out this Romano thing. Because somebody in the chat, and I don't know if they're messing, but Fabrizio said at this stage, unlikely due to Salah leaving for Gakpo to leave. But if a big offer does come in, Gakpo, Liverpool will consider it. If somebody says... And on this one, I'd have to bow down to Romano's information because I have none. But if you ever hear the phrase, if a big offer comes in, the club will consider it, you can take that as he's for sale. Because if, with Rio, it wouldn't matter what the offer was. Somebody could offer 150 million quid tomorrow, and I tell you now, Liverpool would say no. But if they're saying, if a big offer comes in, the club might consider it, that's saying something without saying something. So, again, I don't know the information that Fabrizio Romano has. He clearly has some. But if he's saying that, I would say to you that means, in a roundabout way, he's available for sale. And my dog's very angry about that in the kitchen, apparently. Lightmaster Lee, how are we, bro? What's the latest on Rio? The latest is that there was a claim made by Florian Plettenberg that a direct conversation took place between Rio and Vincent Kompany. Now, David Ornstein and a couple of other journalists have said the Bayern are interested, and that's absolutely fine. But the part about direct conversation having taken place between Rio and Kompany is tapping up, and there's no other way to talk about it. He also said that the deal collapsed yesterday. Now, it just doesn't smell right to me for a few reasons. One, Rio away with the England team doing a bit of training. I know he's not in the World Cup squad, but none of it just lines up or tallies up. And people I've reached out to today, sometimes the club will feign shock on something and I'll go, but I genuinely believe this one when you see the likes of Alex Crook come out to say sources at Liverpool taken aback by the Bayern Rio story. I truly do believe that they would be. Riding the storm. Love seeing you in a good place, mate. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate that, my man. Yeah, it's exciting times to be a Liverpool fan again. It's exciting times. Muldor said, Gakpo goes, yes, please give me Antonio Nusa and Diamande, raid Leipzig for all their wingers. Here's a genuine question for you, Muldor. Do you think there's any chance in hell that Leipzig would do that to themselves in one window? They wouldn't. Yeah, unless there's a bio clause or something in Nusa's contract, and I've not seen anything suggesting Liverpool are in for Antonio Nusa at all. But yeah, there's no way they'd want to lose two of them in one window. So I would say, keep ploughing ahead and try to get the Diamande deal over the line and go from there. So look, I think most people don't believe in this Rio speaking to the Kompany. 76% say no, 24% say yes. But here's a question. 1 second. So, I don't know the interest from Spurs numerically on Cody Gakpo. I haven't got a clue. And I don't know what the asking price may be. But my question for you guys is, would you take 60 million for him now? So 1 second. I'm going to put this in. Cool. So would you take 60 million right now for Cody Gakpo? So let me know what you think on that one. For me, look, I would. The only way I would say no to it is if Andoni Iraola came out and said categorically to the club, no, we need this guy. Because if he said that, then you want to make sure the manager's happy. But I think from what I can gather on the outside of this, and of course I'm definitely on the outside of it, you wonder if Cody's open to a move away. That's the part I think that makes all of this intriguing. Does Gakpo want to move away? Because if he does want to move away, then you're probably best to try and make that happen. Because you don't want unhappy players at the club. But again, a lot of this is just guesswork at the minute because we haven't heard directly from him. We haven't heard directly from Liverpool. We haven't seen an offer come in from Spurs. So it's a little bit he said, she said at the minute. LFC 8092 said, need to stop buying from abroad, and buy from the Prem. I totally get where you're coming from on that one. So I'll come back to you in 1 sec, my man. 1 sec. I just want to get this one done before I forget. Reeks of Bayern PR with Elise to Madrid. I agree. And desperation is another word I'd use. But sorry, to come back to this one, mate. I guess the downside is if you try to buy from the Prem, usually you're paying a premium. So sometimes clubs would go to look abroad. To give you a good example, let's look at the DM market right now. If Liverpool wanted Sangar or Kamara or somebody like that from the French division, it's probably going to cost half the amount of an equivalent player from the Premier League. So sometimes, yeah, Premier League proven is absolutely worth paying a premium for, but other times I'm not so sure. And I think in this instance, it depends on the position we're talking about with regards to who we bring in. because it doesn't look like a winger will be coming in from inside the Premier League unless something changes in the Jared Bowen situation. But the likes of Coyote, things like that, maybe. Storm YT996 says, in your opinion, how many signings do we need this summer, and what positions and who do you think the club will sell? So I was reading something last night, and I think it was Cara. Forgive me if I'm wrong, and I think it was Cara saying basically 3 signings. Liverpool need 3 signings this summer, and not to expect a whole load of business. I don't think 3 signings will cut it personally because, we've lost Salah, so that's one straight away that we need. We've lost Robbo. Well, if you're going to replace him with Costas, I think it's wrong, but okay, it's still a deal you could, or a player you could bring in that you wouldn't have to go out and sign. But you still need a DM, maybe need a goalkeeper, depending on what happens at Mamardashvili. Absolutely need another option on the right. We need a right back. So for me, you're into 5 players minimum, and that's before you look at maybe keeping Elliott at a bit more depth, or things have gone very quiet on Curtis Jones in the last couple of days. So for me, 3 players just wouldn't do it, because you're getting into the case then of hoping we don't get more injuries, hoping a centre back doesn't pick up a serious injury. So to me, 5 is the bare minimum, but I'd like 7, because what I don't want to hear is that halfway through next season, well, we need to do some more of a rebuild. Just get it done. Because I think now is a time for FSG and Liverpool to strike, because the goodwill of the fan base is at its highest for a long time. And I think if you did see 5 or 6 changes come in, fans are far more likely to be open-minded to that and some disjointed performances than if it was spread over 2 seasons. That's my take on it anyway. Craig, would you not want Nico Williams from Bilbao? He's an incredible player with no teams in from. So Bilbao are a very interesting example. And of course, Andoni Iraola would have great connections there. But the wages that they can afford to pay their players are more than you would expect, because they don't really pay transfer fees. They bring players in from that region, they bring them through the academy systems, and then they can afford to pay them really good wages. So I think he's on something like 250 or 300 grand, something like that already. So if you imagine you're trying to get him out of there where his family is settled, he's comfortable, he's grown up there, and he's already getting good dough. So you're going to have to up that again to bring him, and then a huge transfer fee. It just doesn't stack up as being decent business, in my opinion. But I wonder if Iraola could be that connection. We've seen, let's say, Arteta be able to utilise that Spanish connection and that Sociedad connection, or the Basque connection, to be able to bring in the likes of Mikel Merino, obviously Zubamendi, players like that. So maybe Iraola could do something similar. Bring back Darwin on a free press machine. No, he's shy. Can we stop the Darwin stuff? He's shit. Like that's just a fact. And it gets really tiring. There's a reason we got rid of him. It's because he isn't good enough. And I don't want to see him pressing, and skying another 50 shots or hitting the crossbar 7 times in a game. He couldn't get into Al Hilal's team. He's not good enough for us. And nobody out there is hardly kicking the door down to bring him in. So, and also, I absolutely doubt you'll get him on a free. I know that, are they going to really just rip up his contract and throw away 70 million quid? I don't think so. What club could operate in that way? Even for Saudi, that would be just the height of stupidity. To just go, oh yeah, we paid all this money for him, and now because we signed Benzema and we can't play, we're just going to rip up his contract and throw it away. That's not really logical. So I just don't think there's absolutely any chance whatsoever, nor should there be, that we revisit Darwin Núñez. Craig, Elise to Madrid for 150 million leaves them with a lot of money. Don't think it's too far-fetched to be desperate this election on Kills market. So Madrid have the money to offer that for Elise. Absolutely, no question about that. But Bayern are in a good position to say no. But I've always been told that Elise wants to go to Madrid at some point. So it wouldn't surprise me. But I think the best chance for anybody, whether it be Bayern Munich, Liverpool, or anyone, to even consider Elise is next summer. I don't think you're getting him this summer. I really don't. And again, the Darwin on a free stuff, do you really think they're just going to hand him over to anyone and go, oh yeah, that doesn't matter? Like, whoever's saying you can get him on a free, firstly, I just don't believe it. And secondly, why would we go backwards? Just doesn't make any sense. You know, if you bring Elliot back, if you want to bring back a player, because we could get a tune out of him and he could help us out. We did with Salah. It's extremely different to cancelling a player's contract that had 1 year to go at the age of 34, 35, and that we hadn't got 70 million quid hanging over us for. So again, you're comparing apples and peaches. It's just not a comparable. You know, we did it because it suited us as well. So it's not going to happen. You can dream it all you want, but there is no fucking hope on this planet that Darwin Núñez is coming back near Anfield or Liverpool. So if anybody wants to delude themselves with that, crack on, but it isn't going to happen. And I'm genuinely baffled by this. Like, do people forget how frustrating that time was when he was here? You know, oh, he's a pressing machine. Yeah, but he's not a fucking goal scoring machine, lads. And that's what we need. And we've just spent £200 million on strikers. So can we concentrate on getting them right before we start hee-hawing around looking for Darwin again? I'd rather just concentrate on these wingers to make Isak have a better opportunity to put the round thing in the rectangular thing and us to go, yay. You know, that's where I think we should be focusing on. Battle of the Lego Men has begun. I don't know what that means. I know the part of it for Arteta, obviously, but I know Lego. Isn't he a Superman villain? Is that not what Areola is? I don't watch any of the superhero stuff, but is he not, you know, the guy with the wiggly arms behind him that's from Superman or something? Ian said, I totally agree with you about Núñez. I like the guy, but he's not the player we need. And also, like, just think about it this way, right? If they are willing to rip up his contract and just let him go for free, why isn't there a whole host of clubs tripping over themselves to sign him? Right? You know, logically think about that. If there's a player like Darwin Núñez out there for free, you would imagine that plenty of clubs will be tripping over themselves to get a deal done there. But I haven't seen much. Oh, it's Spider-Man, is it? Did I say Superman? Yeah, Spider-Man. See? You're all just outing yourself as virgins here, lad. So, you know, Spider-Man. Spider-Man, I have the pajamas. Sorry. That's not my bag. That's not my, I've no imagination, so I've never been able to watch stuff like that. Yeah, sorry. So I'll bow down to your knowledge on that one, folks. Thank you. Núñez will always have Newcastle away. Yeah, he will. And that was fucking epic, by the way. That was epic that day. If I remember correctly in that game as well, were we down to 10 men at that point? So I think we were losing 1-0. We were down to 10 men. And then Darwin just comes in like a bulldozer and just bing, bang, bosh, 2 goals, job done, away we go. Yeah, that was, yeah. I mean, ironically, the 2 guys that we bought off Newcastle that didn't work out through the middle, and I'm not talking about Isak here, I'm talking about, obviously, the situation with, so what am I talking about here? No, I'm confused myself, sorry. 2 big money signings we brought in, Darwin and Andy Carroll. I know we didn't get Darwin from Newcastle, I was confused myself there. Never really worked out, but I've always understood the gamble that we took and why we took it, because Darwin could have been, he could have been generational because he had all the attributes, but it just wasn't coming together. And it hasn't really come together since, other than that one season, I think, with Benfica. But yeah, him and Andy Carroll, they were both ones that I thought, okay, I get the risk. Let's hope they work out. But we don't have, I guess we don't have space for risks anymore, because we've got Isak and Hugo to be trying to get right. Ben Jacobs has posted about Rio now. Okay. I don't. What was it that Ben Jacobs said? See, Keane's not here tonight. Keane usually sends me all this stuff in the background, but Keane's at a show tonight, so it's just little old me, and I don't have Twitter, so I can't look directly on Twitter. So what did he say? Or maybe Mark can send it on to me if Mark's in the chat on WhatsApp. Mark's going to send this to me. Nice one. Thank you, Mark. Basically, that Liverpool have had no contact about Rio. Yeah, and look, Liverpool certainly wouldn't welcome any contract. Definitely Spider-Man, and don't hate on my Spider-Man race car bed. I'm not hating on it. I just want to go with it. I was a sucker for those when I was younger, by the way, all those novelty beds. When we first had our son and our daughter, I was all about them novelty beds, getting them for them really quickly. Do you think that Bayern thought that they were talking to Rio but realised it was Gakpo on Thursday? Maybe. That would make some sense. I tell you, when that story dropped though earlier on, I was praying there was nothing to it. Because when you see like Rio and Bayern, you have, Now, didn't that Space ITK account, didn't that say something about 10 o'clock tonight? If I'm not mistaken, I think in the Discord group I'd seen somebody posting something about that account saying 10 p.m. UK time or 10 p.m. Anfield time or something like that. Something very vague anyway. Craig, please tell me we won't sell Rio. We won't sell Rio. You don't need to worry in that regard, mate. Right. Here's the thing from Ben Jacobs. Rio NGUMOHA is not for sale, nor have Liverpool received any approach from Bayern or other clubs. Rio is on a long-term contract, established in the first team, and the aim this summer is for Liverpool to add, not diminish, wide areas. It definitely just feels like, and thank you, Mark, by the way, it feels like a bit of saltiness from Bayern. And usually, from my understanding of these things, when Bayern Munich want to put news out there into the world, they usually go through Christian Falk. So for Plettenberg to have claimed all this information, yeah, I again, dubious. What is the kindest I can be about it. I don't want to call anybody a liar, but I'm pretty fucking close here to saying it, because I just, it just stinks to me. It just does. It's 100% don't believe that Rio was on the phone to company. I just don't. I think what he's saying about Darwin is the pressing. We need to get that press. Nobody up front presses in midfield, then defence. Oh, look, the press, Barry, mate, 100% in agreement with everybody on. Yeah, that's definitely needs to come back and will come back. And it'll be interesting to see which players adapt quickest to the press and the methods of Andoni Areola. But you're absolutely right in that. We do need to get back to that part of the way we used to play, because the press this season hasn't quite been up there enough. I seen Enrique Riquelme's lost his damn mind anyway. So one day he's having a little bit of Erling Braut Haaland and he's signing Rodri. And if he didn't sign them two, he's saying that he'll buy 100,000 season tickets for all the Madrid fans. Now he's saying that he's announcing Jurgen Klopp as his manager if he gets the job as president of Real Madrid. Yeah, you might as well say that Jurgen Klopp is going to come in on a unicorn with Erling Braut Haaland and Rodri there. And sure, is there anybody else he wants? Anybody else? Maybe? You know? Anybody else on the way? Do you want him to pick up Michael Elise as well on the unicorn on the way? Yeah, look, we can all promise stupid shit when we know we're not going to get the job. So I promise that if I become the new Real Madrid president, I will rename the club to Madrid Agenda. I promise. And I promise that I will buy unicorns for everybody. And not only that, I will go around Madrid and fart in every freezer in Madrid and close it, as is my right. So that's my promise to the Madristas. If you install me instead of Florentino Perez, I'll get everyone. I'll get Klopp, the Beatles, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Gandhi, anybody else. You know, I'll bring them all in. We'll have a sesh. And we've all seen the FIFA streams. We know my negotiating tactics. It's not hard. Do you know what I mean? I've been to Turkey. I know how this shit works. Riding the Storm. Thank you, man, for upgrading your membership. Appreciate you. What's this one? So Fabrizio Romano on his YouTube channel said, we have to wait and see what's going to happen around Cody Gakpo in case Liverpool receive an important proposal. There is interest in him. It's going to be in Liverpool to decide whether he's going to stay or to let him leave. Now, like I said, to me, if you're not getting an immediate not for sale, I think that's an indicator that maybe he is. It would be interesting to see, though, if Bayern Munich reignite their interest in Gakpo, or if this Spurs stuff comes true. And Andy Robertson, by the way, today, I'm sure you're aware of this, but Andy Robertson was unveiled as a Spurs player as well today. And usually this would be the part where I say I don't wish players well, but I do wish Robbo well. I wish Robbo and his family well. No, not too well. We don't want him getting up there into the Champions League spots or anything. But I can't but wish Robbo well, because what a guy, like, what an absolute legend. Another thing here from Paul Joyce, he said, Iriola must select a vice-captain after the departure of Andy Robertson on a free transfer, and in truth, not many candidates leap out. There's certainly not many in this Liverpool squad who set benchmarks every day. And that's another big concern I think that Liverpool do have to address. Now look, Iriola is probably going to find his own leaders in there and players will emerge, but I get where Paul Joyce is coming from. You know, I think we all agree on Szoboszlai, but if it wasn't Szoboszlai, it's slim pickings, if you ask me, to look around based off last season and see who can step up to such a big role. I mean, Szoboszlai obviously feels like the candidate that most of us would go, yeah. But outside of that, he's not wrong about slim pickings. Alisson, yeah, absolutely. There'd be no issue with that either. Alisson would be more than credible, but I guess the problem you might have with Alisson is, would that just be another 1 year thing? If he leaves in a year when his contract is up. I'm hoping that Alisson can put his injury woes behind him and sign an extension. That's genuinely what I'm hoping for, because I think Alisson can play till he's 36, 37, 38, no problem. So, yeah, for me, the only concern I have with him is the injury. So if he put that behind him, I wouldn't rule out a potential extension. Dave said, needs to sit down Rio and show him Raheem's story. I honestly don't think this is on Rio. Like, I really don't think Rio wants out. And I wanted to make sure that I got that point across tonight, because the very last thing I want to happen is Rio to start getting any grief. Because we love this kid. Liverpool fans are right behind this young man and want him to be a success. And I don't want Plettenberg's story having, being a vehicle for some people to start knocking Rio. I don't want that for the kid. We need to protect him. We need to look after him. Rio needs to know that we have his back. And I'm sure he does, but I do know I speak for everybody in that regard. Yeah, he's a young kid. He needs to be looked after, nurtured and protected. And this shithouse story today from Plettenberg, it's really boiled my blood, to be honest with you, because it's gone too far. It really has. It's gone too far. And you've made a claim, now you got to back it up. Because if I'm Liverpool, there's a legal letter going straight over to Bayern Munich to say this is claim has been made, and I'll be asking Plettenberg and Sky Germany as well exactly where they got this information, and they won't give it up. But it's a big, big, big call to say you spoke with a manager of another club. I know I keep coming back to this, but that's the biggest mistake he's made so far, is by saying that conversation took place. Not that there's interest there, because you can bat that away easily enough, but the claim that direct talks took place is, quite frankly, it's naive for a journalist to write. Craig, is that clown Enrique going to tell him he's going to get a place for bid for Yamal? Look, he's not getting in. Perez will win that on a landslide. So, it doesn't matter what he promises at this point. Florentino Perez is going to continue in that role. Marcus said, yeah, we ain't selling Rio. That's just stupid. Do Bayern think they're a bigger club than us, acting like we have the same amount of European Cups as they do, playing the best league in the world? I think Bayern are a bit butthurt, to be honest with you, because they've seemed so salty since we got Florian Wirtz. And I can't be the only one that thinks that. So much stuff has come out over the last few months from their side. Little sly digs and stuff like that, which it just seems so petty. But then again, I guess they are used to having their own way, right? A lot of the time over in the Bundesliga and clubs, bound down to them and giving in when they want players. Like, I can't remember which club's executive it was, but somebody basically said that they wouldn't mind selling their players to Bayern Munich from within the same league. And I just thought, is that the level of the ambition here? That is just to be finishing second behind Bayern every year? You guys have been asking me quite a bit about Trincao, or a couple of people have in the chat, and I hadn't really seen anything, but today Anfield Edition and CM Jornal, which is a Portuguese outlet, say Sporting's Francisco Trincao remains at the top of the club's shortlist to replace Mo Salah. The change in manager at Anfield has done nothing to cool interest in the 26-year-old. So I think somebody, and I don't know how serious or if this is serious with the interest, but the age profile of Trincao at 26 makes a lot of sense to me if you're bringing in another young winger, the likes of Yan Diamonde. And I've said this to you guys many times, if you're bringing in Diamonde and you've got Rio on the other side, you need to counteract that with some experience and a bit of balance. And, at 26, Trincao certainly, more experienced and at this level than the younger players would be bringing in. But what do we think on that one? Trincao, yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down? Do we believe in it? Are you seeing my comments? No, I can't see them, mate. Tom, just got my first tattoo. You'll never walk alone on my wrist. Getting top of Shankly Gates around my arm tomorrow. Super excited. We should also defo extend Ali and Virgil's contract. I don't know about the Virgil one. I don't know if there will be a willingness to do that. And I think we'll get a hint of that with the centre-back acquisition if we do make one this summer. Yeah, so let's say we brought in Schlotterbeck as an example, just throwing that name out there. That would be a pretty clear indication of why he was being brought in. Thoughts on Alex Scott? Could be a good signing. So, can I ask you guys a question actually about Alex Scott? I didn't really follow the England World Cup squad announcement. Is Alex Scott one of the group of 6 players that went over with Rio to just do some training, but yet isn't going to the World Cup? Or is he in Thomas Tuchel's World Cup squad? I didn't pay any attention to who England sent over. So, on it, that's a name that I'm trying to find out, Splodge, if there's something to this. And it only adds to the interest when you've seen Hugo Ekitike liking his post as well. Oh, so he's one of the 6 that went over. Cool, that makes sense. Yeah, look, maybe we need somebody in that position. And, if Iriola thinks maybe he's the guy. Actually, on this, I read something very interesting on Sky earlier on. One question that I've been asked quite a bit over here since we knew Andoni was coming in was how much input is he going to have? And I read a piece on Sky earlier on that gave really interesting insight into it. So first of all, they were talking about what he needs to do at Liverpool. And they said, incredibly, and this, by the way, shows you how shocking last year was, incredibly, Arne Slot's title winners led in a whopping 53 goals last season, their most ever in a 38-game Premier League season. That included 20 set-piece goals, and that doesn't include penalties. So 20 set-piece goals, the second most in Europe's top 5 leagues, and the joint highest in the Premier League, alongside ... Bournemouth, who Iriola coached. But that's not the part that I was saying to you. The interesting part for me came in the next paragraph, because it shows you how he wants to operate as a coach. So they go on to say, Iriola is not somebody who likes to get involved in recruitment, preferring instead to concentrate on coaching while the sporting director finds the right players to fit the system, which luckily is how Fenway Sports Group operates. So while the new man will not be expected to find Salah's replacement himself, and in any case Hughes and Michael Edwards, CEO of football at FSG, have already identified RB Leipzig Jan Diamonde for that unenviable role, he will surely have some sort of input into the club's strategy. So it seems to be that Iriola is happy to say what he needs for the system with regards to the profile of players, but leave the actual targeting, signing and all that stuff down to the sporting directors at the clubs, which in this case, of course, is Richard Hughes. So yeah, I found that very interesting, because it shows that he's not overly fussed at being involved in the transfer process. Sorry, I was just shouting to my son there because he was letting the dog out. I think Uli Hohn, and I should say shouting to my son, not at my son. I think Uli Hohn secretly has a Liverpool body pillow. Yeah, something feels weird around it. I don't know. Look, I've no surprise that they'd be interested in Rio. I mean, why wouldn't they be? Every club in Europe will be looking for a winger like Rio. So no surprise the interest is there. I just, like I said, very surprised at how far Plettenberg went with his comments. Mark Hamilton said, TalkSport reporting interest in Alex Scott from Bournemouth since Iriola coming in. Szoboszlai would be vice-captain choice for me. Yeah, look, it would make sense if we had some interest in Alex Scott. It would tick a lot of boxes, and he's somebody that Liverpool would have known about for a long time and be keeping tabs on. Did he come through at was he from Bristol as well? I can't remember where Alex Scott actually came through. Yeah, I think he was from Bristol, somewhere like that. But I don't know if Liverpool are going to try and make a move for him or not. I really don't know that information, but I could see a world where we do. It feels logical. You're not answering our question, why should we follow you? Let me make this really clear, my friend. I don't give a fuck whether you follow me or not. I won't sit up at night wasting 1 minute of my life caring about whether you follow me or not. So follow me, don't follow me, or fuck off. Either way, I don't care. I hope that answers your question, you petulant little bitch. Can you not see my comments? I have spoken and you haven't answered me. The entitlement is off the chart, you weirdo. So don't follow me. I don't give a fuck. Go get your news elsewhere. Plenty of channels to choose from. Just shut up moaning, you whingy little bitch. Fuck me. It's mental, like. I'm here now, and I'm here so everything else has to take second fiddle, because I have a question. And I am entitled to an answer, because I am whatever the fuck his name is. Get over yourself, dude. Jesus. Do you think YouTubers sit there going, I wonder if this lad's going to follow me? Or if this lad doesn't follow me, I mean, what's the point? He has 19 letters in his name. So if he doesn't follow me, what am I going to do? We'll pack it all in. So you know what I mean? We'll just give it up. I don't know. I love this shit though. This makes me laugh. Honestly, it does. Like, it doesn't get me angry. It just makes me laugh because it's so weird. Like one, because I try to talk to as many people as I can. I love interacting with you guys. It's my favorite part of doing this. But you know, if you've got a question, ask a question. Don't just become entitled and go, I've put in 5 comments now and you haven't read any of them. Look at me, I'm here. I'm here. I'm fucking fabulous. Would you say that we need to bring back Kelleher, if anybody? Oh, please, please, yes. I mean, look, it's not going to happen. But can I be really honest with you guys about something? And I'm basing this off the assumption that what's going around has some truth to it. And if it doesn't, then you can disregard everything I say. But I got to be honest with you about something. I'm starting to get a pain in my arse with Mamardashvili. I'm like, there seems to have been 5 or 6 eras and times where he's seemingly been moaning or unhappy behind the scenes. Even before he left Valencia, there was some stuff about him not wanting to be number 2 and all this other shit. And I'm starting to get a bit of a pain in my hoop with it. Because you're not Alisson Becker, dude. You know, you're just not. And if Alisson Becker is going to be fit, well, he's going to be playing ahead of you. So I just don't think it's logical. You know, I want to be number 1. Okay, fair enough. Well, then be better. You know, you knew what you were walking into when you signed the contract. So I just... And look, it could be just all nonsense and just media hype, but I'm getting fed up of it, like, already. And he hasn't even fucking had a season as number 1 yet. And it just feels like he's just talking about, you know, being unhappy or wanting to be number 1 all the time. Just train harder. Take your opportunities when they're given to you. It's that simple. And to be even more blunt about it, I don't know a single Liverpool fan who's convinced by him yet. I know many, and I would include myself, who are on the fence and are more than open to being convinced by him. But I don't know anybody that thinks that it should be a given that he becomes the next number 1. You know, right now, I'm still angry we sold Kelleher because I think Kelleher's a better goalkeeper. But this, I just don't think it's a good look for him, personally. Maybe I'm reading this all wrong, but it's just, it seems like it's at least the 3rd or 4th time I've seen a collection of stories intimating something about him being unhappy. So let's wow. So we asked, would you take 60 million for Gakpo now? And 92% said yes, they would take £60 million for Cody Gakpo. Wow. So on the Georgie Mamardashvili thing, I'm going to just ask that question. Are you convinced by Georgie yet? So do you think he's good enough in your mind right now to be number 1 if Alisson had an injury or something, or something happened? Because I have to be honest and say I don't. I would be in the no camp to say I'm absolutely confident in it. I'm not in the 100% camp for being not confident. I truly am on the fence with Georgie Mamardashvili. Like, I'm 50-50. I can see some good traits, and I can see some stuff that I've always been concerned about when we brought him in. But one thing I'll tell you straight out is, if you gave me the option to have kept Creevy and Kelleher and not bought Mamardashvili, I'm taking that option every day of the week. And I'll never understand why Liverpool at least didn't put up more of a fight in that situation to keep Kelleher, or why they let him go without any option to buy him back or any clause to buy him back. It all felt weird. And even to you guys at the time, we talked about this, it all felt weird. Like, yes, he wants to go play first team football. Nobody has an issue with that. But you didn't cover your arse there. And now we're in a situation where maybe Georgie does want to move away. And there was the story that said he'd been offered to a few Italian clubs. So it feels like a potential headache of our own making. And I don't understand how it's happened. J. Bob Sad said the issue with him is that the goals he conceded were because players around him were headless chickens. So here's where I am with Georgie. I haven't seen anything he's done that makes me think, oh shit, he's terrible. I haven't seen any huge mistakes. But I also haven't really seen anything where I've gone, oh wow. You know, I can tell you hundreds of oh wow Alisson moments. You know, we'll all have many of them. But there's been nothing yet with Georgie where I've gone, oh shit. You know, it's been steady. Steady's probably the fairest I can be about it. Mama just can't use his feet, and that doesn't not work in the Prem. What makes that really strange though, Red Dinosaur Mother, is that was pretty clear. You know, I remember, I don't know if it was James Pearce or somebody wrote a piece last season that said that that's a concern. And I thought to myself, and it might not have been James Pearce, so apologies if it wasn't him, but it was a pretty prominent journalist said something like, there are concerns with his distribution. And I'm thinking, anybody that watched Georgie Marmadarshvili for even 20 minutes would know that that's not his bag, and not to be expecting him to be pinging 60-yard diagonal balls over the top. Like, it's not what he's about. So I assumed when we brought in Georgie that maybe the football landscape in the Prem was changing a bit, because you'd also seen Gianluigi Donnarumma come into Manchester City, and they moved away from Ederson and that, you know, ball playing goalkeeper as well. So I thought, okay, maybe it's just this is the type of keeper that's coming back into fashion now. Raekwon, definitely one of my favourite account names, dude. Honestly, love the name Raekwon. I think it's so fucking cool. What's good, hearing you read last season's defensive stats really makes me question, why did the data dummies allow Slot to last so long? I guess they wanted to give him the chance to put it right. And I guess to some extent, all's well that ends well. Because for me as a fan, this situation probably played out the best way it could have. We got Champions League football, and we still got to change a coach. So that kind of feels like a bit of a win. Although, when you sack a head coach, it's never a good thing. Something's gone wrong to get to that point. But I think this has worked out as well as we could expect in that regard. And stepping away from the emotional part of it now that we have some distance, I can understand the logic of trying to keep him in, but it was a risk. It was a risk because this could have gone a different way, and we only took 2 points from the last 4 games when we only needed 4 points to guarantee us mathematically Champions League football without any favours from anybody else. Craig, what do you think about Kara saying that neither Wirtz, Isak or Ekitike will fit in a heavy metal playing style? Well, I think I would strongly disagree about Wirtz, because his off the ball work's incredible and his off the ball numbers are quite good. Ekitike, I would say, has shown and would be willing to do that pressing. Isak, I can understand that concern, because he doesn't even look comfortable when he tries to press. It doesn't look like it's something he's ever really been involved in or been asked to do. So I'll give him that one. Yeah, I can understand the concerns there, but certainly with Ekitike and Wirtz, I'd have no problems with pressing. I think Florian Wirtz will be more than happy to do that. His fitness levels are incredible. Bobby. No, yeah. It is Bobby. Said, Craig, why did we get rid of Kelleher from Allardyce? It makes no sense. Kelleher was arguably the best backup goalkeeper in the world. Very bizarre. So look, the honest answer, Bobby, and the logical answer is that Creevy wanted first team football. So I don't think it's a surprise that we had to sell him with 1 year to go. But the surprising part for most of us has been that we didn't cover ourselves with a buyback option. We did it for Kwanzaa and we've done it for other players. So the fact that that wasn't put in, or at least even tried to be negotiated, it does feel like a lapse in judgment from our side. But that's all I can say, my man, because the whole thing has confused me since it happened. Cameron said, if we lose Rio to Bayern and don't get Jan, what's next? Also love the channel, watch you every night. Can you make me a mod? I don't make those decisions, Cameron, my man. That's Keane and the team decide on the moderators. That's the agreement we have. So the way I think they work it is, they keep an eye on people who are in and around all the time and in the streams, and then they decide amongst themselves who maybe they should ask if they want to come in. And I just leave them to it because I'm incredibly grateful for the work that they do and the help that they give us. So I wouldn't rule that out, Cameron, and I'm not saying no to you, bud, but I'm just being honest with you and saying it isn't actually me that makes those decisions these days. That's up to Keane and the group of mods. And also, to answer your question, we won't lose Rio. You don't need to worry about that one at all, my man. Diamande, I couldn't say categorically we will sign him or we won't. I can tell you that we're in a good position there and we're right in the mix. But, it is a delicate situation because you genuinely have a club in Leipzig who don't want to lose him. Not this season anyway. They want him to stay for one more year. Then, of course, you've got PSG. But it feels like PSG are playing the whole we're not going to have our pants pulled down on price kind of scenario, and they've been linked to some other wide players as well. So yeah, that's the best answer I can give you on that one. Raekwon the Chef, Wu-Tang Forever. I can't tell you the amount of Wu-Tang documentaries I've watched over the years. There's a few really, really good ones out there, and definitely worth a watch if you're a Wu-Tang Clan fan. Just search them up. There's some really good ones out there. There's some on the Sky platform as well. Graham McIntosh, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Itachi, evening, folks. The Rio story got to be a joke, right? Personal terms agreed. What the fuck? So he want to leave. Can we just send him Gakpo in a Rio shirt? So for anybody coming in late, let me read you out what I think is the most explosive or incendiary post around all of this Rio stuff. So Florian Plettenberg said, the deal between FC Bayern and Rio already collapsed yesterday due to, because it was clear behind the scenes that Liverpool would not sell. But he does say, despite a verbal agreement. He goes on to say, however, there were phone calls, meetings and direct talks between Vincent Kompany and NGUMOHA. Now that's tapping up. Flat out, that's tapping up. If it was Vincent Kompany speaking to his agent, you can cover your arse with that one, no problem. But this naive gentleman who should know better has made a very, very big statement here to say that Rio talked directly to Kompany and that there was a verbal agreement. That is... I hope he gets held over the coals for this one. I really do. I hope he gets rinsed for it because it's a big, big claim to make. And I don't think it's going to go away. I don't think it's going to be one that Liverpool just sit back and just look at and go, So, because straight away there's the possibility for Liverpool fans to start asking Rio what's going on and to start, having a pop at him. So it's really shithouse stuff. And I don't want that for Rio. So he goes on to say, as also reported by David Ornstein, NGUMOHA became Bayern's primary target once the Anthony Gordon deal began to collapse. I love the way in one paragraph he starts it off by saying about the direct talks between Kompany and Rio NGUMOHA. Then in the next sentence, shoehorns Ornstein's name in to try and make out like he's also backing up what he's saying. But he isn't. David Ornstein said Bayern are interested, and I don't think anybody in the world has an issue with that. But Plettenberg here, silly boy. He now said Bayern are now focused on 2 transfers, Nathaniel Brown and Ismail Sabari. If both deals go through, it's very likely that no additional left winger will be signed, as both players are capable of playing in that position. I have a lot I'd like to say right now about Florian Plettenberg. A lot I'd like to say on camera, but I would end up in trouble. I wouldn't have him in my list of credible journalists that I would look to his work to judge anything on, personally. But, you know, that's me being kind about it. Just look at the man's nickname, and that tells you a lot of his views. And also, Falk is usually the one for Bayern. He's usually the one if there's something to break or some news that Bayern want out there. It usually goes through Christian Falk. So, again, I think Florian Plettenberg has walked himself into a headache here. What's his nickname? It's Pletty, and the second part, yeah. You know, I'm not putting myself into trouble, but let's just say I want to call his bluff on this. I want to call his bluff on it because it's a big fucking claim to make. And it's a shithouse thing to do, because it's basically like just lobbing a grenade in towards Liverpool and saying, now deal with that, dickheads. You know, be like me coming on here and saying that there's been a conversation between Michael Elise and Andoni Iraola, in which Elise told him he wants to come play for him, and a deal was agreed verbally. You know, imagine I came on here and said that. Imagine the shit I would get for it, and rightly so. So he's made the claim. Up to him now to back it up or retract it. But either way, silly boy. What does it rhyme with? Maud. It rhymes with Maud. Ethan and Craig, is it true Iraola has spoken directly to Salah yesterday? I don't know anything about that. That's all I can say to you. Is I don't know anything about that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Sincerely, I have no idea. I would say there's less than a 1% chance that Salah does a U-turn. But and I think the reason you could see that is because Liverpool are so actively going after Yan Diamonde and other wide targets that it just wouldn't make sense if they had an inclination that maybe Salah was going to stay. Craig, how do you feel about the Zabarani rumours? Do you know what? It's not the most ludicrous thing in the world, is it? You know, I was thinking about this the other day. I remember when he was going to PSG, there was a few Liverpool fans who were saying, you know, might be worth a punt. Honest answer is, on this one, I wouldn't mind it being true. But I don't know what the situation is. How would you guys feel about it? Like, we've lost Canade. We have Xhaka. We have Leone. We have Virgil. I think Gomez goes this summer. But how do you guys feel about it? Like, and also, what will the numbers be involved in it? Because I haven't seen numbers. Now, we know that he's worked with Andoni Iraola, so there is that connection there straight away. But after that, I really just don't know. Someone's asking, here we go for Diamonde. Not that I'm aware of, no. God, if there was a here we go for Diamonde, we'd, yeah, I'd probably be removing clothing around now. Carlos, Craig, just want to say, love the channel, bro. Really appreciate you, Carlos, my man. Thank you, sir. Really does mean a lot. I'm glad. Honestly, it does. It's so lovely to hear when people say things like that, and not from an egotistical perspective, just because that's what we want. We want people enjoying themselves and having a bit of fun. So I might be needing your help on a bit of a fundraising venture, ladies and gentlemen. Not for me, Adam, the young MMA fighter that we sponsor. The World Championships are coming up in Abu Dhabi in August, and his parents have been launching a GoFundMe. So I'm going to help him start promoting that from next week, because of course we're going to chip into the fund ourselves, but it's a fairly expensive trip to get across there to Abu Dhabi. And previously, when he competed in the World Championships before, a very famous Irish athlete paid for it. I don't think it's a secret. No, McGregor paid for it the last time, which was very nice of him to do for their family. But I want to make sure Adam gets over. So, there might be a couple of weeks where I would say, rather than maybe sending a super chat, if you could, make a small donation to that, because I'm telling you what, this kid he's going to make it. He's coming up to record a video with me next week, so you'll get to see him and hear what he's all about yourself. But yeah, he's currently European champion, and we want him to become world champion, and then we want him to go on and hopefully go into the likes of Cage Warriors and then make his way through. Would you swap McAllister for Hoyson? Oh God, yes, I would. Yeah, in a heartbeat. Again, not because of not liking Macca, because it would just work. In regards of it covers one position we need, and I rate Hoyson very highly. So, speaking of giveaways, by the way, in Macca, we've launched our June giveaway. As promised, we're going to be giving away one signed item every single month in 2026, with thanks to our incredible friends at thecollectorscorner.co.uk. This month, it is a signed Alexis McAllister Argentina shirt, completely free, as you can see, with Beckett authentication as well on it. Scan the QR code below or use the link in the description for further details. Scanning that QR code will bring you into the Anfield Agenda WhatsApp, where you will see the post in there. And I can talk about this because I have one of those shirts. I have that shirt hanging in the studio. Very, very similar. Same company, same branding, and it's gorgeous. So I paid a pretty penny for my one. So the idea to get it for free, you'd be silly not to enter. And we want you guys to enter because, we love giving these things away and we love partnering up with the Collector's Corner. Also, though, Adam Duffy, that's the very one, Matt. Yes, that's the guy. If you want to treat yourself and you're a fan of memorabilia, whether it's music, TV, sport, check out thecollectorscorner.co.uk and use our code Anfield Agenda 1 to get yourself a 20% discount. Yep, it is Adam Duffy. He popped up. I think I still have the photo here. One sec. He popped up to the gaff with the belt a few weeks ago after he came back. And I think I still have a photo of myself. Yeah, there we go. So there you go. There's Adam popped up with the belt after he came back, after he'd won it. And he popped up a few weeks back. And I'm so proud of him. It's been a pleasure getting to know him and his family over the last year or two. And couldn't be a better young lad to get behind. Honestly, he is a credit to his parents. Itachi said, I'm looking forward to the new season. Finally feels good, don't it? Summertime again, time to go upbeat. Yes, it does. It feels really exciting now that we can look forward to the new season. And I'm intrigued by the transfer window as well, because I'm not really sure yet, Itachi, what to expect in this window. Craig, you're not giving away your Macca shirt, I assume. No. This is from the company. Mine's staying put. I love mine. And even if Macca left Liverpool, I'd still keep the shirt because I like Alexis McAllister. So yeah, no, my Macca shirt's never going anywhere. That's staying in the Houlden household. What else we got? Is Adam also a Liverpool fan? Do you know what? I haven't got a clue. I don't think we've ever actually really talked football at all. Yeah, I haven't got a clue if he's even into football, in all honesty. This kid lives and breathes MMA, and he's going through his leaving cert at the minute as well. And I tell you, you will know within 2 minutes of this video playing why we're so supportive of him. He is, you know, he's everything you would want in a young lad as an example to other young lads. Everything. Focused, determined, a well-behaved, well-mannered young man. Very grateful, very dedicated, no airs, or like just a top lad. And yeah, if my young man turns out to be like Adam, I'll have done a damn good job, because he's worth the support. And to hear that there's no funding or anything like that for MMA in Ireland, from Sport Ireland or anything, it just makes you see how difficult it is, to try and get to where you need to be. And we just want to try to use the little bit of profile that we have to help Adam in his fundraising efforts to get over there and compete. Stephen said, forgive what may be a stupid question. What is Frimpong's actual position? Slot played him out of position, but I never heard what his real position is. So he's a wing back. That's at least how I would describe him. So in a back three system, where you'd have a lot of the times, let's say, a 5-man midfield in possession and then a 5-man defence out of possession, he would be the right side of that 5. So kind of hybrid in between a right back and a winger, but for a very specific system, which has made it all the more confusing to many of us, Stephen, why we signed him, because we don't play that system. And for me anyway, and this is just my view, I don't think he's good enough as a right winger to consider him as a winger. And I can't tell you whether he's good enough as a right back, because we've seen very limited amounts of him as a right back at Liverpool, because Slot didn't really want to play him there. So yeah, that's the answer, the best answer I can give you. And I said at the time, and I still say it now, I don't understand why we made the signing, and it's got nothing to do with not liking him or not thinking he's a good footballer. It just didn't feel like joined up thinking with what we needed, or that there was going to be an obvious area that he was going to settle into the 11 in. Now maybe Areola changes his mind and thinks I see him as a right back. That would be cool. But yeah, that's where we're at with him at the minute. And then, of course, you have the situation with the injuries that, he'd never had. And we read out yesterday, and I understand it as well, that he must have been quite frustrated with how the first season went, because, somebody had never really picked up too many injuries. All of a sudden, having multiple hamstring and muscle injuries in a season must have been very difficult for Jeremy Frimpong. And all I can say is that every time you see Jeremy, he just exudes positivity. I would say he's incredible to have in and around the club, and brilliant around the training ground. He seems like a very positive, very upbeat character. But it still doesn't take away from the fact that I really don't know where he ever plays for us on a regular basis. Ryden the Han. Oh, how do I pronounce this one? Rydan Trehan. Hi Craig, I'm going to the Liverpool Como game with my mom. So excited. It's going to be a good game. Good game, good choice from you and mom as well to go to. I think George is going. I think George said earlier on he got his tickets to the Como game and the Monaco game as well. That's going to be a very interesting one, because it's the last friendly for the Reds before the season starts. So I would expect that to be quite a strong team as well. And obviously Como coming off a great season. It'll be interesting to see them up close. So yeah, well done you. And do let us know how you get on, and hopefully you enjoy it. Do a raffle for a shirt for a fundraiser. There are things like that we can do, but we have to be a bit careful about it as well. But look, I'd have no problem, buying a frame shirt or whatever to give away as a prize as part of the Adam thing. Yeah, no problem. It's just I'd love to just cut a check and go, here's the $5,000 you need, mate. But, that's for us at the minute, $5,000, we just don't have it lying around like that. So we just need to try and help them in any other way that we can, as well as making a donation towards it. But yeah, leave it with me and I'll see what we can do there, because I just don't want to walk into any issues around raffles and stuff like that. But certainly I'm going to make sure he's over there in that tournament somehow. Stephen Tutu said, not sure what's been said so far, has just joined, but nobody should be worried about Rio agreeing terms with Bayern. Plettenberg is not trustworthy. He's a Bayern mouthpiece. I don't think any of us really believe it so much as we're more astonished that he's come out with it. You know, even Alex Crook was saying that Liverpool sources have been taken aback by the Bayern Rio story. No permission granted to speak to the player and no plans to sell. And I think Plettenberg shit the bed on this one with what he said, because he's gone too far with it. You know, if he had to come out and said that there was an agreement between Rio's representatives and Bayern on a wage package for a potential deal, this wouldn't have really been as big an issue as he's now made it. Because by saying that there was a direct conversation between Bayern Munich's head coach Vincent Kompany and Rio, and there was an agreement between them, that takes it to a whole another level. So what I want to make sure I get across here is nobody should be concerned about Rio leaving. That's not what this frustration is about. Rio ain't going anywhere. Don't worry about that. I'm just flat out angry at Florian Plettenberg here as a Liverpool fan, because I know how this shit works. Very easily, some sections of people could have picked up on that and start having a go at young Rio. Start going, what do you mean, Rio? Why do you want to leave Rio? Snake Rio, all this shit. And I don't want that to happen to the young lad, because I don't believe that side of it. I believe Rio wants to be here, and I believe Rio loves this football club, and I believe he knows he's in the right place. That's where my frustration is. And I hope Liverpool fans defend Rio in this scenario rather than getting frustrated at him, because yeah, we need to look after the young lad. And this, what makes this all the more astounding to me is this isn't like Johnny working for the local paper. This is Sky Sports Germany, Florian Plettenberg. Do you know what I mean? Like, this isn't a fan channel lad coming out and saying something astonishing, or a journalist coming out with some whopper of a story working for some 2-bit publication somewhere. He's working for a multi-billion-pound company. And I'm actually shocked Sky haven't made him take that down. Personally, if I was his editor, that would be down immediately, because you're opening yourself and your employers up to potential problems. Right, so a couple of people saying they joined late. What's the Rio thing? Give me 2 minutes and I'll run through it all for you. So, let's start at the very start of this today, and we'll work our way forwards. Sorry, I'm just flowing through everything. I want to talk about Rayan in a couple of minutes as well, by the way. So don't be running off. I want to talk about Rayan and Liverpool's apparent interest there. So the first thing on my timeline about this one was actually David Ornstein for me. Said Bayern Munich are exploring a surprise move to sign Liverpool winger Rio NGUMOHA. The Anfield club insists Rio is not for sale, and they plan to enhance their options in this area rather than diminish them. He also said Rio is aware of Bayern's strong interest and intentions, driven by head coach Vincent Kompany and the board, although they're yet to contact Liverpool. Then we had Plettenberg, who said Bayern Munich had reached the full verbal agreement with Rio and his camp on the 26th of May. Negotiations have been taking place for weeks, he said. However, the deal fell through yesterday, and then said, for the time being, it remains to be seen whether club-to-club agreement can be reached now for Brown and Sabari. Then, somebody else said, same guy said Wirtz was demanding McAllister's number 10 shirt, only for Wirtz to publicly deny it. And I remember that. I remember saying this post saying Wirtz was demanding the 10 shirt. So then we had Dougie Critchley of Sky come out and said, there's some outlandish business being attempted today. Firstly, Real Madrid plan a bid of €150 million for Michael Olise, coming off 53 goals and assists in 52 games. Secondly, Bayern are interested in signing Rio, one of the very few bright spots for a Liverpool side last season that desperately need to sign rather than sell wide talent this summer. aim for the stars and all that, but both seem totally futile. Then somebody, Anfield Edition, posted a quote from Rio previously where he said, "I think Liverpool for me is the best club in the world." Fabrizio Romano said Rio NGUMOHA is considered untouchable by Liverpool, with the winger a crucial part of their project. Sami Mokbel of the BBC said, confirmed, Bayern made inquiries about a potential move for Rio NGUMOHA, but sources have indicated that no face-to-face discussions have taken place. No agreement over personal terms has been struck between Bayern and the player. So that's very much at odds with what Plettenberg said. Now, face-to-face thing and on the phone thing, fair enough. I can't say compare those two. But he said no agreement was struck between the player and Bayern, which is different to what Plettenberg said. Goes on to say sources close to Liverpool insist Rio isn't available and is viewed as an important member of the first team who operates in the position of trying to strengthen. But then came the big post, the one that truly put the cat amongst the pigeons. And it said, the deal between, from Florian Plettenberg, the deal between FC Bayern and Rio NGUMOHA already collapsed yesterday, and then in brackets he put, despite a verbal agreement, because it was clear behind the scenes, that Liverpool would not sell the player. However, there were phone calls, meetings, and direct talks between Vincent Kompany and Rio. Also reported by David Ornstein, Rio became Bayern's primary target once the Anthony Gordon deal began to collapse. Bayern are now focused on two transfers, Nathaniel Brown and Ismail Sabari. If both deals go through, it's very likely that no additional left winger will be signed, as both players are capable of playing in that position. So he's basically admitted to Bayern tapping up Rio and landed Bayern in it, and himself, because he could have got away with all of that until he wrote the line that direct talks between Vincent Kompany and NGUMOHA took place. That's just so naive and stupid from him. Okay, here's this one. So here's the Space ITK post. This is going to take me a couple of minutes to run through. So bear with me as I do run through it, but I'll read it out to you in its entirety as it's written. So it's from the ITK Space account, which used to be the Bayern Space account. They write this. Bayern Munich, through head of sport Max Erbel and head coach Vincent Kompany, did indeed establish contact with Rio NGUMOHA and his representatives in recent weeks in an attempt to position Bayern Munich as a potential destination for one of English football's most highly regarded young talents, with those approaches arriving during a period in which the player was frustrated by his limited opportunities under former Liverpool head coach Arne Slot, and uncertain whether his pathway to first-team football would immediately accelerate, leading Bayern to receive indications that he could hypothetically be open to a short-term alternative pathway in order to accelerate his development and accumulate valuable senior minutes at a smaller club and in a less demanding league, before eventually returning to Liverpool, the iconic and most decorated institution in English football on Merseyside that he has always regarded as his dream club, as a more complete, experienced and established player. However, as discussions intensified, Bayern's representatives made their financial position clear by indicating a value in the region of £35 million. I mean, fuck right off with that. Anyway, a figure viewed as so far removed from Liverpool's internal assessment that serious negotiations never truly materialised, with Liverpool having absolutely no intention of entertaining the sale of one of their most prized academy talents, while those involved increasingly recognised the vast gulf between Bayern's proposal and Liverpool's expectations, further reinforced by NGUMOHA's insistence that any hypothetical departure would require mechanisms facilitating a future return to Anfield following his development elsewhere, meaning no personal agreement was ever reached between Bayern Munich and the player, as several fundamental conditions surrounding any potential move never aligned, ultimately underlining where his heart remained throughout the process and where it continues to envision his long-term future. The entire situation furthermore shifted dramatically the moment Arne Slot departed and Andoni Iraola arrived at Liverpool, effectively removing the very foundations upon which Bayern's hopes had been built, as NGUMOHA's outlook changed almost immediately, with the player now believing he has a genuine opportunity to establish himself under the new manager and determined to fight for his place rather than abandon his ambitions at the club he considers to be his footballing home, leaving Bayern increasingly aware that their chances had diminished significantly and that the important discussions between the player and his new head coach would soon take place. A development which in turn ensured the discussion never advanced towards any form of personal agreement, as the player's focus became centred almost exclusively on earning his priority and his opportunity at Liverpool rather than pursuing a move elsewhere. For Bayern Munich, the outcome of the situation serves as yet another reminder of where the club increasingly finds itself within football's modern hierarchy, because while Liverpool, Real Madrid, Barcelona and the financial superpowers of the Premier League continue to compete for the sport's most coveted talents, Bayern are finding themselves pushed further down the food chain and increasingly forced to operate in markets where competition is less fierce and rejection less likely, and industry figures viewing the unrealistic scenario involving Liverpool actively pushing NGUMOHA out after the arrival of targets such as Yan Diamonde or Bradley Barcola. Another target appears destined to join Bayern's ever-growing collection of missed opportunities, a collection now so extensive that if one were to stack all the rejection letters accumulated over the recent windows, they would likely form a wall high enough to block out the sun over Munich and cast a permanent shadow across Salbener Straße. So yeah, lots said there, but what was said in that post to me was you didn't hear anything about an agreement. So that's the part that Plettenberg has shit the bed on here for me, because and also, if any of this has even a modicum of truth to it, it shows how bad it was getting under Arne, that players like Rio considered maybe going out because they weren't getting first team enough opportunities. And what I don't get though is, how could Bayern guarantee him more minutes than Liverpool could? I don't understand how they could do that, because at Liverpool he'd be competing with another left winger, as he would be doing at Bayern Munich. And I'm sure Luis Diaz wouldn't be overly happy if his minutes all of a sudden became a lot less after such a great season for Bayern Munich. So it felt like if they were even able to do it, it would have pissed off Diaz. The whole thing just feels a bit weird, and again, Bayern just look foolish in all of it, because yet again they're left with their Todger in their hand and nothing to show for it. Just a little reminder, by the way, folks, I will not be live tomorrow, so there won't be any live stream tomorrow. Scheduled day off for me and the old Houlden family, so I might still get a video or two, but there'll be no live stream from me tomorrow anyway. This one. The Lolly said Woodman is, in my opinion, on the same level as Mamardashvili. Yeah, I would put Woodman levels below Mamardashvili personally. I think Woodman is more than adequate as a number 3 and seems like a good professional, but I don't think he should ever be considered for the top 2 goalkeeping positions at Liverpool, in my opinion. Graham McIntosh, thank you, bro. Tin Palkovich, my apologies, said, Craig, do you think FSG are making a mistake by not making Iriola a manager but rather a head coach? Lots of love from Croatia. No, I think it's okay. Let me read this out to you from earlier on, which I didn't really know about until I read this earlier on, but it leans into this conversation. So there was an article on Sky Sports here in the UK and Ireland that said, Iriola is not somebody who likes to get involved in recruitment, preferring instead to concentrate in coaching while the sporting director finds the right players to fit the system, which luckily is the way Fenway Sports Group operates. So I don't think there's any real problem with it. But it doesn't mean that he can't become a manager if he wanted to down the line. Just think of this as him having a bit of a leash at the minute and him having to prove his credentials here at a club like Liverpool. And if he does show that he's sending the club in the right direction, I would imagine you could see a situation like Mikel Arteta had at Arsenal, where he goes from becoming a head coach to a manager. So yeah, it's no biggie. He's still gonna be coaching the team, picking the team. It's just he won't be as involved in the transfer process at this particular juncture. But you can't rule it out in the future. It's not uncommon. It's a model that is intended to be there to protect the club from a huge upheaval if the head coach doesn't work out. Good example here right now is Arne Slot. So Arne Slot has departed Liverpool, but you've seen how seamlessly Liverpool are able to go there, change the head coach, drop one in, and the structure still remains the same. Whereas when Jurgen left, a lot more left with them, and it became a bigger process for Liverpool to put the structures back in place that protects the football club and the footballing philosophy throughout the club. Craig, what upcoming World Cup games are you looking forward to watching? I was trying to do a list the other night of some games that I might do some watch-alongs for. And honestly, from the group stages, there was slim pickings, but the ones that stood out to me were Netherlands versus Sweden. I might do that one. Scotland, Brazil. I might do that one. And then Ecuador, Germany was another one I was intrigued at. But what am I looking forward to seeing? I'll be honest with you, I'm not overly excited by this World Cup because I feel like this is the worst side of football on display around this World Cup. And I think the nickname of the World Cup of Greed is very fitting because it's disgusting what's happening. And I've seen so many stories about tickets going on the secondary market in blocks, which is very unusual for these resale sites, at higher prices than they were initially sold by FIFA. The whole thing just feels snidey and like this is probably their last big cash grab World Cup because fans are just appalled by the way this whole thing has gone. It's disgusting. The prices, even like seeing train tickets going up from like $17 and $18 to over $100 for the same journey. The whole thing is just fucking disgusting and unnecessarily profit driven. And it could be a cultural thing, maybe it isn't, I don't know. But when you're talking about sport and events like this, you can't purely look at it from a monetary value. There has to be a societal value, and that has to be taken into account. You need the next generation of football fans falling in love with it. You need it to be accessible to the fans. And like we talk about these things and these prices, from my perspective as a European citizen in a country that is pretty economically sound and the average wage is relatively high. But imagine if you were coming from a country that maybe qualified for the World Cup for the first time, where the average wage is a lot lower, and you're being asked to pay these prices for hotels, tickets, travel. It should be a celebration of football, and football at this level and this type of tournament should be accessible to as many people as possible. It shouldn't be about just rinsing people of their money. And it feels as if there may be a reckoning at some point for FIFA because this cannot go on. Some of the shady practices and some of the shady deals that have been done around football, it's disgusting. And I don't know what else to say on it because I know America will and can do a great job with the World Cup. They're more than capable of putting it on, as are Mexico and Canada. But it just feels wrong to see so many football fans having to pay. Well, they don't have to, I guess, but they want to support their country. And it's grubby and it's disgusting. And I hope half the stadiums are empty. I hope there's a message to FIFA that football fans are just not putting up with this shit. And don't even get me started on the halftime show. That's an absolute farce. Having to extend halftime. So FIFA have had to change their own rules to allow this. That for what? Nobody gives a fuck about a halftime concert during the World Cup final. Nobody wants it. Nobody needs it. Nobody cares about it. And then you've got the whole water breaks, whether it's warm or not. Everybody knows that a football, I think if it goes above 28 or 30 degrees, usually there's water breaks. And that's pretty widely accepted throughout the game. But even in inside stadiums or non-dependent on the conditions, they're putting in water breaks in each half. You know why that is, and I know why that is. And it's ads. That's what it is. It's the shoehorn ads in. That's it. And again, have you not taken enough money out of the sport, you greedy bastards? And don't get me wrong, by the way, I love a bit of Super Bowl halftime show. Love it. Love it. It's part of the fanfare of that event, and it's a very American thing, and I love it. But for football at halftime, I mean, it just feels wrong. Theo said, "Hey Craig, as a regular viewer, I'm absolutely loving the feeling around the club right now with Slock on. I can just see it in your eyes. Barcola, Rio, and Diamonde, Gibbs White on the wings. I don't think Gibbs White is going anywhere, to be honest. Oh, somebody asked me earlier on. Sorry, I want to get back to it because I missed it. Where was it? There was one earlier on that I know I missed and I wanted to come back to. Where was it gone? Somebody asked me about Morgan Rogers and I hadn't got round to answering it yet. Where was the one about Morgan Rogers? Somebody had asked about Morgan Rogers. And I don't think Liverpool are going to make a move there. You know, Arsenal have been strongly linked with Morgan Rogers, but I can't find the super chat now. Apologies to whoever sent it in. But yeah, I can't see Liverpool going after Morgan Rogers personally. Done that one, done that one, done that one, done that one, that one, done that one. Romano said Rio's untouchable. I believe that. Said Chasing Vlogs. As do I, mate. I believe absolutely spot on that he's untouchable. Why do Liverpool pass over players when they're at lesser clubs, then wait for a bigger club, then want to buy them? For example, Elise, Doku, Sarr could have had all these players. I guess the theory is that Liverpool don't have the same wiggle room for development and competing at the same time. So to get a player to come through and become, let's say, let's give us an example, Diamonde, you've got to be guaranteed that you can give that lad the games. And if the results are a little bit mixed because of that in the development, some clubs are a little bit more understanding of that and understanding of the process to build players up and move them on. But Liverpool would think of themselves more as a finishing school for footballers. And maybe back in the days where we were going after like the Lazar Markovic, we had to take a punt and we had to be a bit more risky. The one that always stood out to me was Virgil van Dijk. I remember reading an article that said Gary McAllister told Brendan Rodgers about this guy up at Celtic that we should have our eye on. And then he ended up going to Southampton for, I think it was £12 million or something like that. And we all know what Liverpool paid in the end. So I guess Liverpool are kind of happy to allow them to develop elsewhere, keep an eye on it, and then make their move when they think they have enough experience. This is why I love the appeal of the feeder club or the multi-club model, because that would have given us the ability to do what we're talking about here, which is go to South America or Africa or Europe or wherever and get these young players, put them into a team where they will play, they will improve, they will get good experience, which is why it was so strange when the whole multi-club thing for us just kind of petered out into nothing. Do you know what LFC Spectre said? Lazar Markovic, there's an old name. You know what was even more egregious about that Lazar Markovic thing? Is we had to pay Chelsea like 6 million quid or something like that because they had the first option on Lazar Markovic and we had to pay them before we went. If I remember it correctly, we had to pay them before we went in to do that deal as well. That just made it even more egregious. Paddy said the New York and New Jersey Attorney Generals are investigating the FIFA ticketing practices. I'd seen that, Paddy, yeah, and I hope they hold them to account, you know, because it's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting the way FIFA have gone on. I think the accusations are that they've almost, with the dynamic ticketing system, almost created a false demand by limiting supply to push prices higher up. And I don't know how this dynamic pricing is legal anywhere. Like, if you're going to a concert, like, let's say let's say Oasis do a concert in Dublin. Well, it's not going to be a surprise to anybody that's going to sell out and everyone's going to want tickets. So to say that, well, because more people want tickets, we get to put the price up for the tickets. And even as you're buying them, the prices can change. It all just feels disgusting and grubby. And I don't get it. A ticket's a ticket. It should have a value, and that's it. You buy it at that value. That's the end of it. End of conversation. But more and more times now, it's getting harder and harder to go to any event because you have some general release tickets, at least one or two pre-sales beforehand. Then you might have limited things for certain credit card company holders, certain mobile phone company users. Then you'll have premium lounges at the venues and stuff that their ticketing access have priority to. And any of the semi-decent seats then go out the window, or a seat in row 4 could be priced at 300 quid and a seat in row 6 could be priced at 50 quid. Like, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And the greed just seems to be unabating. And I've kind of just stopped going to things because of it. I just refuse. Like, Katie Taylor, her tickets are going on sale next week, and they're starting at €38 for Katie Taylor's fight in Croke Park. And there's even family tickets for 2 adults and 2 kids, I think, for €150. It doesn't need to be greedy like that. For the super mega events, fair enough. You know, if Andre Rieu and a huge orchestra are coming in, yeah, there's big overheads into that. But a lot of this shit is just greed. Craig, face value ticket prices for Canada game in Toronto starts at just below $1,000 each. For football, like. Do you know what I mean? For football. It's crazy. Last good World Cup was Brazil 2014. Do you know what? I know there were a lot of issues around the Qatar World Cup and human rights concerns and deaths and building stadiums and all, but at least it was an affordable World Cup. Public transport was cheap. And yeah, maybe the flights over there were a bit expensive, but look, that depends on where it is in the world. That's one of them things. But at least it was an affordable World Cup for a lot of fans. This just feels like FIFA are just cashing in on football one last time while they can get away with it. Claire Jones, how are we, Claire? Said, I live here, Craig, not bothering with World Cup. Got my tickets for us versus Leeds in pre-season in Chicago. Nice. Soldier Field, isn't that the name of the Chicago stadium? Nice. Enjoy. And Claire, don't forget to I'm sure you will, Claire, but keep an eye out, because when Liverpool do the pre-season tours, they're really good at, giving access to the local supporters clubs and stuff like that when they're in America or when they're in Australia. It's something that I do always want to give the club a lot of praise for, because they do make sure that they make the team, the whole club, as accessible as possible on these pre-season tours, because you guys don't get to see them that often in your neck of the woods. So proper order, and I hope you all enjoy the games as well. I'll be interested to watch the game against Wrexham. That meme guy said, imagine the prices of beers in hotels closest to the stadiums. Complete money racket and simply not worth to watch people kick a ball for 90 minutes. I don't know, lads, what to say. Look, I've paid my fair share of expensive things for premium products. So, I've paid a few quid to be in good boxing seats on occasion, but I'm still talking less than 500 quid. Like, I think the most expensive face value thing I've bought was the Liverpool Manchester United game. I think that was the most expensive ticket I've ever bought for anything. I'm going to see Pierce O'Leary fighting in Dublin on August the 1st, and Tyson Fury could actually be on that card, and I'm front row ringside for that. And I think even at that, it was 300 quid maybe, something like that. And that was front row ringside. Saw Iriola wants to include the players who were out on loan in pre-season. Think Harvey Elliott might get a run in again. That's brilliant news, though, isn't it? Like, he hit all the right notes in that interview yesterday. Yeah, all the right notes. And I heard so many things that just made me sit here shaking my head going, yes, Andoni, yes, sir. And exactly what you've said, that he's excited to work with the fringe players and the young players. That's brilliant to hear. And if you're a Rio or a trainee only or, any of those guys, you're going to be buzzing, aren't you? At hearing that, yeah, we're going to get a fresh crack of the whip. We're going to get a proper go of it. And like yourself, I hope Harvey Elliott is a part of that as well. Uh, Fritz said, I wasn't going to buy tickets because of you know who, but since he's been sacked, we're going to go to either New York or Chicago. Nice. I wish I could go to America to a game, but as we all know, I can't get into America. So that won't be happening. But I we did get our Liverpool order today actually. The one we put in after Slot was sacked. So yeah, a few Liverpool pieces came today that we ordered from the club shop. You can bet that ticket prices are massive for the Super Bowl. In my country, Ireland, ticket prices for high profile GAA Irish sports matches are very expensive. They're not that expensive, mate. I've been offered All Ireland final tickets for 100 quid before for the hurling. And I live in Ireland, so and I don't understand how we're trying to compare the Super Bowl, which is the pinnacle of any of these things, with Curacao versus whoever, and still asking these ridiculous prices. It's the premium event, the final, the big showpiece. You would expect premiums to be paid, yes, but it isn't just the big games. They're just rinsing everybody. It's just greed. Why is that, Craig? Why is what? I don't know what you're asking me. Since you're back, every stream is a 10 out of 10. Really, really enjoy them. Thank you, man. I've enjoyed them as well. I've been sick. I've had a bit of a cold for a week or so now, but apart from that, yeah, things are great. It's good to come in and see everybody upbeat and happy. I'm very confident about this season. We could be top 3, 4 champions if I'm cocky, but it takes time for Iriola to settle with Liverpool first. So for me, I'm looking. I'm looking. I'm looking to the cup competitions in year one. If I'm being honest with you, because for us to have a proper go at winning the league, we need to be consistent all the way through the season. But for the cup competitions, we just need to navigate our way through the Champions League, let's say, to get into the knockout stages. Same with maybe a couple of handy draws, hopefully, in the domestic cups. And then hopefully Iriola can get the team firing and fully aligned by the latter part of the season. So I'm kind of thinking the cup competitions more, as long as we're tucked into the Champions League spots again. Gaelic football or hurling? For me, it was the hurling ticket that I was offered. And I have absolutely no interest in hurling. Aren't Liverpool playing a game in the Aviva Stadium in August sometime? I don't think so, Andy. No. I think I might have the list here, bro. Bear with me. 2 seconds, mate. I'll give you the breakdown of all of the Reds' pre-season games. Yeah, so here we go. So here's the full pre-season schedule. Sunderland in Nashville on Saturday, July 25th. Wrexham at Yankee Stadium in New York on Thursday, July 30th. Leeds United at Soldier Field in Chicago on Sunday, August the 2nd. AS Monaco at Anfield on Sunday, August the 9th. And then Como at Anfield on August the 16th. They are all the confirmed preseason games for the Reds. The final two, of course, being at Anfield. And the first game at Anfield for Andoni Iriola as Liverpool's head coach will be that preseason game against Monaco. LFC Spectre said Gianni Infantino should be fired as FIFA president. Do you remember when we all thought Blatter was bad? And he was, but, it's like Infantino's gone, hold my beer here, fella, because I'm about to ratchet it up a notch. Honest Watch Review says a lot of it depends on who we sign, I think. Yeah, that's fair as well, mate. You know, there's definitely some glaring areas we need to assess in the squad. Wide players being one, right back being another. Um, like, what do you guys think numerically is a realistic amount of signings for Liverpool to make for the first team? And by first team, I do include squad level. What would you expect Liverpool to do numerically? Because I'm probably somewhere between 5 and 7, but I think I'm going to be disappointed, quite frankly. But somewhere between 5 and 7 for me, depending on maybe who goes. What's this one? 1 second. Cody Gakpo, comments from him. A shame the manager's been sacked, especially so soon after the season, where we'd fought to qualify for the Champions League. But yes, that I believe the club released a statement about that with an explanation of it. I don't think any of the players saw it coming. It certainly happened, but apart from that, I think many of our players at the club are also working towards the World Cup now. We have to put it to the side. I had, of course, sent him a message to thank him for the past 2 years. That is kind of at odds, though, with some reporting that said Liverpool players had an inkling that maybe this was coming. So, I don't know. Right, so you guys. Andrew reckons 4, Frank 5, Marty 4, LFC Spectre said 7, Rob Houlden 4, Andy Wood 6, Muldor 5 to 6, Miles 5, Mark 5, Michael Manning 4 to 5. I think 4 key signings for the starting 11 said PRK 720. Irene said 5 as well. Thank you for that, Irene. At least 5 said Carlos. L Scouser 8 said 3. Double L Lion 5 and a loan for right back. So what's the Anfield sector thing? Somebody saying Anfield sector Lewis Steele. I don't have X, mate, so someone's going to have to point me in the direction of the post. Have you heard the rumours of Enrique Riquelme appointing Klopp as Real Madrid manager if he wins the elections? Yeah, mate, don't pay any attention to it. He's also promised Haaland. He's also promised Rodri. He's promised whatever he wants because he knows he's not getting it. You know, Florentino Perez will win that in a landslide, so he can promise that they'll all fly in on unicorns and it won't make any difference. PRK, finally Craig read my message. Sorry, mate, if you've put in a few and I've missed them. It's never my intention. I like to try and interact as much as I can, bro, but I'll try and make a point of looking out for your comments moving forward. Jacob said, I disagree with Gakpo, how it's a shock. Slot had a terrible season. What did he expect? Stick with him and we'll be mid-table. I guess if you're Cody, you probably feel like, well, there was a manager there that trusted you. Right, so they probably had a good relationship. After that, I don't really know. Yeah, we've already done that one. So, Mark, it was the Lewis Steele one we were looking for, I think, if you can, mate. So, we asked you guys, are you convinced by Georgie Mamardashvili yet? We're going to leave that one running for a few more minutes, so if you haven't answered it, yes or no, are you convinced by him? Why can't you go to the US? So, I've been to America like 6 times, but the last time we were to go over for a show, we got to the Department of Homeland Security, which is in the basement of Dublin Airport, and we were doing our American pre-customs clearance. And because we were gone over to do a show, there was confusion. We thought that the ESTA, which is the visa waiver, it says you can conduct business and travel in the United States for up to 90 days. So we thought that covered us for the show we were doing in Boston. So we registered with the IRS and stuff like that for the tax side of it. We were going through Ticketmaster, but we needed a different visa. And the woman actually said to me when we were at the Department of Homeland Security that it's a common mistake. And I just thought, well, it's a common mistake. Would you not clear it up a little bit then if it's a common mistake because it's been interpreted differently? But ultimately, long story short, they removed us from the ESTA visa waiver program for life, which means that if I want to go to America now, I have to apply for a 10-year holiday visa, do an interview at the embassy, and fill out more questions than I was asked on a mortgage application form. And I don't want to go to America that badly at this moment in time that I'm jumping through those hoops. So yeah, that's why. But look, again, it is what it is, you know. I'm not crying about it. It's just kind of a throwaway comment when I was talking about the games in America. Mark said I can't find the Lewis one. Somebody said it was on Anfield sector or something. Mark, maybe, I can't remember. Such a harsh punishment for a small mistake. Oh, it was crazy. I mean, we lost about 6,000 quid from that because we had 4 people going over. There was myself, my wife, Connor, and Connor's partner. We had an apartment booked for 5 nights in Boston. We had the venue that we paid the deposits and all for. Yeah, and we even asked, look, can we cancel the show then and just go over because we were to meet people over there. And they said, no, we couldn't do that either. So, look, it is what it is. You know, every country has the right to police and protect their own borders. It felt like there was no common sense involved. But, you know, like I said, it is what it is. Paddy Wacker said, Craig, how many do you believe will sign? We need to fill out the squad. I'm thinking 7, but I'm saying we'll only sign 3. Gonna leave ourselves short is what I'm thinking. Like your opinion. So if like Elliot was given another chance, I think that's one we could almost say is as not a new signing, but another body into the squad. We need. I think 2 wingers personally, especially if we're going to sell Chiesa. I think we need 2 wingers, a DM, a right back, and a centre back. They're to me absolutely bona fide. We need them. So a DM, 2 wingers, a right back, and a centre back. So immediately it's 5, and then whoever leaves, I certainly don't think we can do what we did last summer, which is move more players on than we brought in. Part 2 of Andoni Iriola's interview will be out tomorrow morning. Nice. Thank you, Mark, for that, by the way, bro. Appreciate you. 3 new. Recall Elliott plus the 2 defenders we already have to come in. I still don't think we have enough at centre-back, personally. I mean, trying to think about it logically. The decision with Joe Gomez is we either keep him this season and let him go for free in a year, meaning we're still going to have to go into the market for a centre-back. So I would say get some money for Joe now while you can and put that money into getting in a centre-back. Then you've got your young Giovanni Leone, who's coming back from an ACL, and we'd only seen 86 minutes of him in the Liverpool shirt. So he hasn't even had time to get used to the league yet. You've got Xhaka coming in and off the back of not playing since April, but himself having not kicked the ball yet in the Premier League. So he's now at this point going to have to come straight in to be the partner for Virgil. I just don't think we have enough depth there. So for me, there's there's just a real need there at centre back. Honest Watch Review said the problem is you can't rely on Gomez to be fit if we keep him. I just like if let's say they played out what they are talking about, which is keeping Costas and keeping Joe. Then next summer, the way things are scheduled, Joe would go for free because his contract's up. Costas would go for free because his contract's up. Alisson would go for free because his contract's up. Virgil would go for free because his contract's up. Bajcetic would go for free because his contract's up. And none of that makes sense if you're a club that needs to supplement your revenue streams for signings. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why not just do it now and get the upheaval out of the way in one go for the squad, or the transition out of the way in one go? And maybe, yes, you have a rough first few months, but eventually it'll figure out because you've got a top coach. And I think Iriola is a top coach and he will improve the players. But it's just, I'm fed up of feeling like we've done 70% of what we need to do. And we're looking at all of this and everybody around us who was already ahead of us this season, they're going to be strengthening as well. Arsenal aren't going to sit in their hands. United are out there doing business already. City will be doing business. Chelsea will be doing business. So, not only do we have to maintain a level, but we have to kick on as well here. Get me Kamara from Monaco. Certainly in the mix. Right, folks, I haven't realised it's 2 hours and 15 minutes gone already. That's absolutely flown by. So on the Georgie Mamardashvili question we'd asked, are you convinced by Georgie yet? And 81% of you said no, and 19% said yes. So 81% of people, and I would be in the 81%. I'm not saying he won't make it, but I'm not yet convinced. I'm definitely on the fence. So look, final thing before I finish up, a reminder, ladies and gents, our new giveaway for this month. We're giving away a signed Alexis McAllister Argentina shirt, complete with Beckett authentication, completely free. Scan the QR code there on the screen or use the link in the description for further details, and that is brought to you with thanks to our friends at the Collector's Corner. If you're in the Anfield Agenda WhatsApp already, you'll see the competition post in there. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say good night to you. I won't see you live tomorrow unless something drastic happens. I'm scheduled to have a day off live content tomorrow. We'll throw out a video or two. There's a video that's just come out on the channel right now as well from myself, Lewis, and Bence, if you want to give that one a watch. But thank you for joining me tonight. As always, had fun with you guys and hope you have a cracking weekend. We'll talk soon.